There are really only two things that determine how good a gaming mouse is. The first is the sensor, which is by far the most important part. The second is the switches, the buttons. You can compromise on the switches if you have to, but never on the sensor. Here's why. Most sensors are named with codes that start with PMW or PAW, depending on the manufacturer. Some companies like Razer or Logitech even design their own exclusive sensors. But if you search gaming mouse on Amazon, you'll notice something strange. The majority of listings never even mention the sensor. Instead, they just shout things like 35,000 DPI, buy me! And that's misleading because high DPI doesn't automatically mean better performance. It only matters up to a certain point. The good brands don't hide this. They'll proudly tell you exactly which sensor they're using. For example, Glorious almost always points out that their mouse uses a PAW 3395. Once you know the exact model, you can look up the real specs on the manufacturer's website. So what specs actually matter? Forget the exaggerated DPI numbers. What you really want to check are the IPS, which measures tracking speed, the acceleration, which is measured in Gs, and the polling rate, which tells you how often the mouse sends information to your computer. DPI, or CPI, is simply how many steps the sensor takes per inch of movement. At 1600 DPI, moving your mouse 1 inch translates to 1600 pixels on the screen. But here's the thing, almost nobody plays above 3200 DPI. Even people who love high sensitivity rarely go beyond 6000. So when a company brags about 30,000 DPI, that's just marketing fluff. IPS is much more meaningful. It tells you how fast you can move your hand before the sensor fails to keep up. A sensor rated at 650 IPS can handle speeds way beyond what any human could realistically reach, which is excellent. Acceleration works in a similar way. If the sensor is rated for 50G, that means it can handle extremely sudden movements without losing track. Again, more than you'll ever need, but a sign of a strong sensor. Polling rate is about responsiveness. At 1000 Hz and above, you're solid, though some modern mouse push all the way to 8000 Hz for ultra-smooth input. Now let's talk about switches. Unlike the sensor, switches are replaceable, which means they're not as critical. There are two main types, mechanical and optical. Mechanical switches are the most common. For example, the Omron 20M, rated for 20 million clicks, is used in tons of mouse. They feel great at first, but within 6 months to a year, they often start to wear down, causing double clicks, missed clicks, or sticky buttons. That's why they're not considered very reliable.
Higher quality mechanical switches like the Omron 50M or the KLG M8 last much longer and perform far more consistently. If you see those in a mouse, that's a big plus. Optical switches are even better since they don't use physical contact points at all. They detect clicks using light, which means they don't wear out in the same way. They can practically last forever. The catch is that they're usually locked to certain premium brands like Razer, Logitech, or SteelSeries, and they tend to cost more. So the smart way to think about it is this. Never compromise on the sensor. If the sensor is bad, the whole mouse is bad. Switches are different. They're nice to have, but since they can be swapped out, they're not a deal breaker. Design also plays a huge role. If the shape doesn't fit your hand comfortably, it doesn't matter how good the sensor or switches are. You won't enjoy using it. Comfort always comes first, followed by the sensor, then the switches.